The oppressive silence of night on the colonized planet Nova Esperança is broken only by distant echoes of agony. Where once there were laughter and voices in the lit streets, only ruins submerged in darkness remain. I am hidden with my daughter, Sofia, behind the wreckage of a toppled military vehicle. My breathing is heavy and irregular, and I can hear the beating of my own heart, fast, frantic. Sofia trembles silently in my arms, her face pressed against my chest so as not to see the scenes of horror around us. I stroke her hair gently, trying to convey to her a courage that even I am not sure I possess. Just hours ago, this colony thrived as a small reflection of Earth on alien soil. I remember walking these same streets, greeting neighbors, feeling proud to serve in the local security forces. Everything changed when the alien virus appeared, without warning. At first, there were isolated cases, people with high fevers and delirium. The doctors thought it was some common infection brought from another continent on the planet. But soon the hospital wards were crowded with patients, writhing in pain. I watched military colleagues attempt to impose quarantine, only for them to start succumbing as well. The virus acted too quickly. It transformed its victims into something beyond any nightmare, bones cracking beneath the skin, limbs twisting at impossible angles, and flesh acquiring pulsating dark stains. Within minutes, the infected ceased to be human. I saw Lieutenant Braga, my superior and friend, look at me with glassy, lifeless eyes before lashing out at his own men. We had no choice but to shoot. I choke back a sob as I recall the night I lost my wife. Clara worked in the colony's communications center. When I ran to find her, it was already too late. The virus had reached her during a sudden outbreak inside the base. I found her collapsed, gasping for breath, her skin already gray and black, veins spreading across her neck. "Take care of Sofia," she whispered to me, her eyes filled with terror and love, before her body convulsed. I held her hand as Clara transformed, her fingers clenching so hard they became misshapen. The screams she let out as her jaw distorted at an unnatural angle still haunt my nightmares. I loved her so much, and in that moment I had to destroy her to save her from becoming the monster she was turning into. A well-aimed shot to the skull, my tears mingling with her blood on the floor. I don't know how I found the strength to grab Sofia and flee. Now every shadow on this planet seems to hide one of those creatures that were once our friends and family. I press Sofia against me as I creep out of our makeshift hiding place. We need to find supplies, water, food, and a safer place to spend the night. The colony is unrecognizable. Street lamps flicker intermittently, some sparking. Buildings that once sheltered families now have shattered windows and doors ripped from their hinges. There are bloodstains on the walls and claw marks on the metal of security doors. The air smells of burning and something rotten, the sweet and nauseating ferocity of corrupted flesh. Sofia lets out a small sob when she trips over something in the dark. I lower the trembling flashlight to the ground and see the lifeless face of a colonist staring back at me with milky eyes. Half of his body is fused to the wall, as if he had been thrown with impossible force. I bite my lip, swallowing my panic, and gently turn Sofia so she does not see the scene. We advance in silence along the main corridor of the housing complex. Every step echoes, and I fear that at any moment we might attract unwanted attention. My hands sweat as I grip my weapon tightly, a plasma rifle already low on charge. Suddenly, a wet, dragging noise resounds ahead. I signal for Sofia to stop. Further on, under the pale red light of a slowly revolving emergency siren, a figure moves. It is a colonist, or what is left of one. His body is twisted, the spine unnaturally arched, pushing out from under the skin. He staggers, each step accompanied by the cracking of bones. In place of an arm, there is a tentacle of exposed flesh and bones, dripping a viscous black liquid. Sofia stifles a scream upon recognizing the creature. By her torn clothes, it was Mrs. Ortiz, the sweet kindergarten teacher of the colony. My blood turns to ice at this realization. The creature turns its face in our direction, perhaps alerted by our scent or sound. Its face, God, Half is overtaken by a strange organic mass, like a pulsating tumor with teeth. The other half still bears a human eye wide with horror, shedding pus-like tears. When that deformed mouth opens in a piercing shriek, I feel Sofia clutch my jacket with all her might. There is no choice. I raise the rifle and fire. The plasma shot pierces the creature's skull and it falls with a dull thud, convulsing in its final spasms. Its agonized groan echoes down the empty corridor, and for a moment I fear that more of them might have heard us. I rush to the disfigured body and confirm that it no longer moves. The partially human face of Mrs. Ortiz stares into nothingness. A terrible expression of relief seems to soften her lifeless features. I take a deep breath, trying to calm the uncontrollable trembling in my hands. Sofia lets out a soft whimper behind me, and I turn to embrace her. Her brown eyes are wide with shock, and she buries her face in my shoulder as soon as I hold her. I feel her small arms squeeze me, and that gives me the strength to continue. It's going to be all right. I lie softly, whispering as I stroke her back. My own eyes burn with unshed tears, but I cannot break down, not in front of her. We press on, climbing an emergency staircase toward the colony's command center. If there is any place with a chance for safety or communication with Earth, it is there. Each creaking step increases my anxiety. I can hear diffuse noises through the ventilation ducts, perhaps quick movements or scraping claws. The entire complex sings with a symphony of distant horrors. We reach a narrow corridor that leads to the control room. The security door is half open, forced by someone. We slip beneath it. Inside, monitors flicker, showing static and fragments from security cameras around the colony. Trembling images of deserted streets, rooms filled with motionless bodies, and in others, swarms of distorted figures crawling in groups. My stomach churns at the sight of so many infected. In one corner of the control room there are 2 fallen soldiers. By their uniforms, I recognize one of them, Corporal Silvera, or what is left of him. His torso has been torn apart, as if something had exploded from within. The other soldier is charred, probably by the accidental discharge of some energy weapon. These were the last people I had hoped to find alive here. We are alone. I swallow the bitter taste of despair. For a moment, I nearly succumb to hopelessness. I look at Sofia, her face smudged with soot, her eyes glistening with contained tears and an unwavering trust in me. I force myself to take a step forward and examine the panels. The power is unstable, but I manage to open a short-range communication channel. This is Captain Davi Santos of the Nova Esperança security force. If anyone is listening, please respond. My voice comes out hoarse, almost unrecognizable. Only static returns. I try switching to long-range frequency to reach Earth, but the console beeps with an error. Antenna with no signal, possibly damaged. Earth will not hear our plea for help. I feel the weight of defeat on my shoulders. For a moment, I nearly fall into despair. I consider the possibility that no one will come to save us, that this cursed planet will become our tomb. I look at Sofia, her little face dirty with soot, eyes glimmering with contained tears and a fragile confidence in me. She believes I can protect her. I cannot disappoint her. I take a deep breath and fight against the tightness in my chest. If there is no rescue, then we must save ourselves. We need to leave this planet, or at least find an isolated place where we can hold out until help arrives, whenever that may be. I decide to go to the transport platform, where perhaps there is still an evacuation ship. I let Sofia sit on an old swivel chair for a moment and tear a piece of my sleeve to clean a cut on her leg, a small wound she must have suffered during our escape. She makes a pained face but remains brave and quiet. "You are strong, my love," I whisper, kissing her dirty forehead. She looks up at me with the fragile trust of a child who has seen too much horror, and nods. We can't waste time. I lower her from the chair, and together we leave the control room. The path to the platform runs along an extensive corridor bordering the cargo bay. As we run through it, We hear behind us a guttural roar that sends chills down our spines. The creatures must have caught our trail. I grip Sofia's hand tighter and increase our pace. My heart pounds against my chest. I see the large double door leading to the hangar of the ships ahead, partially open. Outside, through a faltering force field, I can see the night sky tinged, red by the reflection of distant fires, the stars shining indifferently at our suffering. When we cross the hangar door, my stomach sinks. Most of the evacuation ships are not here. Either they left or were destroyed. Only a small orbital transport remains, and even that is toppled on its side, its fuselage dented. It is our only hope. I guide Sofia toward it, but a sudden crash behind us makes me turn abruptly. 3 infected emerge from the corridor we came from, drawn by our scent or movement. One of them is enormous, perhaps once a cargo crane operator. Now his muscular mass has doubled, and we see jagged ribs breaking through bare chest skin. The other 2 move on all fours, as agile as beasts. Their eyes reflect the red of the, distant flames. They let out hungry growls upon seeing us. "Run, Sofia!" I shout, pushing my daughter toward the ship. She runs, stumbling from exhaustion, but keeps going. I position myself between her and the monsters and fire my rifle at the closest one. The shot hits one of the quadruped's leg, which lets out a shrill cry and falls, but it doesn't stop. It crawls, leaving a dark trail while the other 2 advance. The giant charges at me with surprising speed. I manage to fire once more. The plasma hits his shoulder, creating a smoking hole, but he barely slows down. There is no time for a third shot. He collides with me, throwing me forcefully against the wall. I feel a nauseating crack as my head hits the metal. The world spins for a moment, stars dancing before my eyes. I fall to the ground, dazed. I see the beast raise its mutated arm, ready to tear me apart. In a desperate reflex, I draw the pistol from my belt and empty it against the creature. The projectiles pierce the monster's flesh repeatedly until it staggers and collapses heavily just a few feet from me. I am injured. I feel a warm liquid running down the side of my head. Dizzy, I turn to look for Sofia. She is at the open door of the small orbital ship, staring at me in terror. "Dad!" she cries, extending her little hand toward me. I stagger to my feet, but before I can run to her, something grabs my ankle. The infected one I had shot down reaches my leg with its twisted hand. I cry out in pain as sharp claws tear through my boot, ripping my skin. I kick with my other leg, hitting its deformed face. It releases my ankle, and I seize the rifle to deliver a final shot to its head, freeing it from its suffering. The third monster, the one that was injured, slowly approaches, dragging itself along. I ignore it for a moment and limp toward Sofia. I enter the ship and bang my fist on the panel to close the door. The hissing of the pneumatic system gives me a moment of relief. We are temporarily safe inside. Sofia throws herself at me, crying, and I embrace her tightly. "I'm fine. It's all right," I murmur, although a wave of pain courses through my body. I see blood dripping from the wound on my leg and something more. A strange burning sensation radiating from the cuts. My stomach churns, but I push aside the panic. I need to get my daughter out of here. I sit in the pilot's seat and run my hand over the controls. The ship's power is unstable, but if we're lucky, we can still take off. Outside, I hear the last infected lunging at the hull, scratching in vain at the reinforced metal. The engines groan as I try to activate them. For a terrible moment, nothing happens. I close my eyes and nearly pray. Then a deep roar emerges from the back of the ship as the thrusters come to life. "Hold on, daughter," I warn. With a pull on the lever, we manage to lift the transport off the ground, tilting it toward the hangar's exit. Through the cockpit glass, I see the remaining creature watching us with a nearly human hatred in its lone eye. Then we fire upward, leaving behind the cursed soil of Nova Esperança. The small ship trembles as it breaks through the atmosphere. Sparks fly from a side panel and several alert lights flash on the console. Too many damages, too little fuel. We won't go far, perhaps only into low orbit. Sofia lets out a soft sigh, exhausted, and I pull her onto my lap as I activate the autopilot. Down below, through the viewport, the desolate planet recedes, a sphere stained with fires in the darkness of space. "Did we make it, Daddy?" she asks in a weak voice, pressing her head against my chest. I run my hand over her, wiping away a tear. "We made it, my love. For now, we're safe," I reply, trying to sound convincing. She closes her eyes, overcome by exhaustion and trauma, her little fingers still clutching my jacket tightly. Only when I am sure that Sofia has fallen asleep do I allow myself to face the terrible truth. My vision is blurred with sweat and exhaustion. I feel chills running through my body, despite the stifling heat inside the damaged ship. With trembling hands, I pull up my pant leg to examine my ankle. The claw marks are unsightly, 3 deep cuts already surrounded by dark veins that slowly spread upward over my skin. The area throbs with burning pain. A wave of nausea rises in my throat. I lean my head against the seat, closing my eyes for a moment. There are no medications here, no antiviral kit. Nothing that can stop whatever is now circulating in my blood. I open my eyes and stare at the ceiling of the cabin, fighting against the absolute terror of what may come next. I think of Clara and the fate she suffered. My body trembles, but then I feel the light weight of Sofia asleep against my chest and I find a strange calm. Very carefully, so as not to wake her, I adjust Sofia on the seat beside me and fasten her with the safety belt. She moves, mumbling something in her sleep, but does not wake up. My eyes fix on her for a long moment. So innocent, even after everything. My little angel. I swallow the surge of emotion threatening to break me. I take a small pendant from the inside pocket of my jacket, Clara's last memento, and place it in Sofia's hand, closing her fingers around it. Then, with difficulty, I rise, every movement an effort as the fever begins to spread. I limp toward the rear access door of the ship. Outside, through a hatch, I see the vast blackness of space studded with stars, so beautiful and indifferent. My mind is in a storm. I know what will happen to me, it's only a matter of time. Perhaps minutes, perhaps hours if I'm lucky. The dark veins rising on my leg are the harbinger of the horrific transformation I have witnessed so many times. My heart races with fear, not for myself, but for what I might do to Sofia if I lose control. I take a deep breath, seeking courage in the love I feel for my daughter. With heavy hands, I activate the emergency panel near the hatch. It opens, with a hiss revealing the launch mechanism of the escape capsule, small but programmed to automatically return to the nearest inhabited surface or remain in orbit until a rescue signal is detected. My sweaty fingers slide over the controls as I program the capsule for liftoff with a single occupant. An alert flashes, asking if I am sure about this. I hesitate only for a second while a silent tear escapes my eyes and floats in the near weightlessness. Then I confirm the sequence. I return to Sofia and carefully lift her, still asleep, in my arms. She instinctively snuggles against me. Every second is precious now. I feel occasional spasms in my left arm. The infection is progressing. I carry my daughter to the escape capsule. I seat her on the cushioned seat inside, fastening her with the straps. She wakes slightly, her eyes half closed with confusion and exhaustion. "Daddy?" she murmurs. I force a gentle smile, though tears now freely stream down my face. "Shh, I'm here. You'll be all right. We just need to play a little game now, okay? You're going to take a nap in this special little bed, and when you wake up, you'll be in a safe place," I say with the calmest voice I can muster. She frowns, sensing something is wrong. "Are you coming too, Daddy?" Her voice breaks as she asks. My heart shatters at that moment. "I'll catch up with you, my love. I promise. But I need to stay here just a little longer to make sure. The monsters don't follow us," I lie again, caressing her face. Sofia sobs but nods, trusting me once more. Before I lose all my courage, I press the button to close the capsule's hatch. The small, circular window closes slowly, separating us. Sofia reaches out her little hand toward the glass, tears now streaming down her cheeks. "Daddy," she calls, her voice muffled. I press my palm against the glass, aligning it with hers, my heart begging to open that door again and hold her forever. But my hands act on their own and trigger the launch. In a burst of air, the capsule is ejected away from the ship. I watch, It receded into the star-studded darkness, taking my life with it. Inside the cabin, silence returns, broken only by the rhythmic beep of a distant alarm. I collapse to my knees on the metal floor, all strength leaving me. The pain is now unbearable, my vision is blurred. I feel something stirring beneath my skin, and a guttural cry of agony escapes my throat. My fingers involuntarily twist. Alone, in the vastness of space, I begin to cry, out of fear, sorrow, perhaps relief that Sofia is safe. As darkness invades the edges of my vision, I drag myself back to the pilot's chair one last time. Every movement is a battle against searing pain and muscle spasms that threaten to paralyze me. With one final effort, I clutch the crumpled photo of the three of us, me, Clara, and Sofia, still affixed to the panel. I gaze at our smiles, from a past now as unreachable as a distant shore. My thoughts become confused. I feel the fever burning my mind, memories blurring with hallucinations. The glass of the cabin in front of me reflects my sweaty, defeated face, but for an instant I swear I see Clara behind me, her hand on my shoulder. Perhaps it is only the end approaching, or perhaps something more. It does not matter. I close, my eyes holding the photo against my chest. Amid the pain and terror of losing myself, I find a thread of peace imagining Sofia finally safe, far away from this nightmare. A trembling smile forms on my cracked lips as I whisper one last time, "I love you, my daughter."